Hey, it's Kyle Cooper, racing for Team 6 Cycling, and this is the Rosena Ranch Masters 35 plus, mixed with the 45 plus, but scored separately, categories 1 through 3 race from 2021. I'm starting this recording with about a little over 30 minutes to go in what turned out to be just over an hour and a half long race. It's 40 miles. Each lap is a mile out, a mile back, 100 feet of climbing. And with the 180 turns and the rollers, it was basically 2 sprints a lap just to stay connected. It's fairly challenging. It felt more like a road race than a crit or anything like that. It's a challenging race, and you can see the conditions are challenging here as well. So what's happened so far, I'm racing solo, no teammates in this field because I'm old. And for those who don't know me, I'm a sprinter. I can work in a breakaway, but my primary tool is the sprint, and the breakaway established itself basically from the gun. And one of the riders, actually 2 of the riders that were in that were people that I should have kept a closer eye on. Pat Boss from Hit Squad and Rigo Meza from Stage 2 Cyclery. They both had a number of teammates. In retrospect, they're not going to work with me, and I know I should know that. And I knew they were people to respect, and I didn't quite. It's rainy. I didn't quite think that they would be able to stay away instantaneously, but they opened up a gap of 20 plus seconds first lap, and then they held it to between 20 and 30 seconds for the remainder of the race. And the hard part was that even the solo riders weren't working with me. I was in the front for the majority of the race, trying to pull them back, trying to get people to work in a rotation with me. A couple times we brought the gap down to 20 seconds again, but it just would extend again as it fell apart. And the teams who really know how to do a real good job of working together, as I said, the bigger teams aren't going to help me. Go Fast and Stage 2 Cyclery and Hit Squad. And yes, I did say Go Fast because when I wasn't paying attention, another strong rider who's in the 45 plus field, not racing against me, but somebody who I know to be somebody that would work with me, Pat Caro, snuck away. I didn't see it happen, and I don't know if you noticed a little bit ago there as they were going the other direction behind the moto, but now the breakaway is 4. So now we have 3 large teams up there. Team Simple Green is the 4th rider, and he does have a couple teammates as well. So at this point, I've kind of consigned myself to, or resigned myself to the fact that I'm probably going to be waiting for the field sprint. I'll continue to work to keep things, fast. I'll chase things down on occasion. I'll work where it's advantageous for me, so I don't get swarmed at corners or pinched out in the turnarounds. But other than that, I had a cramp that started before I turned on the camera in my right calf, and it only lasted for a few seconds, and I was able to massage it out, but it didn't feel normal from that point on. And if I was normally 2/3 of the way through a race like this and knew that the gap wasn't coming back and that a few people up the field are going to be 1, 2, 3 unless I can catch them, I would have made an effort to try and bring them back myself. But a threshold or above effort for 5 to 10 minutes to bring them back, I knew it was going to bring that cramp on, and I was just going to look like an idiot. So I talked to people to see if they would work with me. That was me basically saying, I guess these 2 guys who just went around me after I pulled up the entire hill are going to try and pull back a 25-second gap by themselves. I was letting my frustration show a little bit with that statement. So, as I said, I'm basically, watching the sprinters that remain in the field, who I know are going to be threats to me. One of which is Sharon. He's racing without any teammates, and another is Max Hernandez, who used to be Sharon's lead-out man. He races for Go Fast. He has no reason to work every reason to sit in and try and nab the field sprint win. So those are the two characters that I'm watching, but as you may have noticed, neither of them has been in front of me yet, and that's because they're more experienced than I am. So, but my goal with how rainy it was to, when I'm in the field, stay in the top 5 or at the furthest back 10 wheels, so I could always tell what was going on, so that what happened to me with Pat sneaking away wouldn't happen. It doesn't take long for a rider to disappear in these type of conditions. So here we are on the descent, coming back from the turnaround, and this was always a great place for recovery for me. I descend like a greased cannonball. I'm heavier than I look. I can get fairly aero. I've got a fast bike with good wheels, and so I could do fairly minimal effort and be on the protected side here, and usually make up any spots that I lost at any point in the rest of the full lap. As we came into the feed zone each time, people tended to test out the legs and go a little bit harder as we were climbing up to the start-finish line and that other turnaround. And I think it was because they didn't want to get pinched at the corner. And so, I guess that's fine. I'd usually stand on the pedals, put in like 400 watts or so as we climbed up here, and then inevitably 1 or 2 guys would pass me on the inside, and then I would just pass them on the next descent. So a very interesting dynamic there. But this is apparently me hoping hoping to get to the turnaround by myself, as I said, without somebody going around me. Let's see if I'm successful. Of course not. So, getting swarmed at the corner again. On the descent in this direction again, I was usually able to recover, although there were a couple of laps where people would really light it up here, trying to string the field out. This is John Garbo in front of me, another Go Fast rider. He's got a teammate in Pat Caro up the road, so I'm not entirely sure why he's putting in like a 500 watt effort here. But he strings the field out pretty effectively. I sit in his draft, doing minimal watts, but you can tell he's pedaling pretty hard, and we're leaving the field in the dust. So I looked back, I said, hey, maybe this will work. Not sure why. At the moment I wasn't thinking this, but in retrospect, I'm not sure why he was riding quite as hard as he was there with a teammate up the field. But I pull through because it's that was an effective dig, I thought, and maybe we can get something going here one more time. But again, I'm keeping something in the tank for the sprint. And here's the climb going to the back part of the course. We have a little bit of a rotation going here. These are the same usual characters who were helping or riding, wouldn't say helping, but were usually up in the front with me. And here you can see I pop back in. I say, okay, maybe this will, we've got five or six of us who can work here. Maybe something can happen. Probably gassed here, and that's probably why I fell out of rotation. As the end of the race approached, I was getting a little bit tired on these backside climbs. They're not easy, and people often wanted to go a little bit harder than I did. And yeah, you can see I'm falling back a little bit here, so I'm just trying to sag back and recover a little bit as I saw the field was coming. Here you can see Sharon in my rear view camera with the green helmet and the GoPro on his head. And every lap, my teammate Jeffrey was yelling, "Watch Sharon!" Yeah, I know. He's always the guy to watch. He's an inspiration to me. He's such a great sprinter. He's not afraid to take a pull and try and get things going. Throughout the race, he probably was only in front of me, 2 or 3 times, and it's because he's smart. He's conserving. Puts in efforts when he needs to. When he sees something that might be happening, the rest of the time, he doesn't waste energy, and it's something I still need to learn. The other big sprinter that I'm watching that's in my field is Max Hernandez from GoFast, who used to be the lead out for Sharon, is what I'm told. I'm relatively new to the SoCal cycling scene. I've only been here a few years, so that's before my time. But I know he's strong. I've ridden with him on the Buds ride, a local ride, and so I know he's going to be somebody to watch as well. And he's not afraid to get a little aggressive in the Peloton or in the sprint, and so those are my two marks. And I am recovering again, 0 watts, sitting in the Peloton, staying on the right side because the wind is head cross through here, and inevitably every single lap rolling right past a few people, doing no work until it flattens out. And if you allow the riders to pass you on the left, you can continue to get sucked along here with minimal effort. And so this was my method of recovering to hopefully prevent that cramp from coming back. Now in front of me right now is an Evoke rider. They work very well together. They're a known Masters squad. Andrew Knuckles, Bart Clifford, Sean Bagley. They're good, strong guys. A couple of great sprinters in that mix. Andrew's a great workhorse for them, from what I've seen in their videos. And so I hadn't seen them at the front at all until now. And they're not in the front, but I hadn't really seen them. They'd been kind of conserving behind me. They didn't have anybody up in the field. That would have been a team that I would have loved to have come up and maybe put in an effort to help me bring back the breakaway. But I guess they had other things on their game plan. Immediately thinking I'm a little further back than I wanted to be, which is why I'm probably putting in a little more effort than I needed to. I hit over 700 watts there. As I said, I usually descend pretty quickly, so that's something I probably need to work on. Didn't need to accelerate quite that hard out of that corner, and that really saps the legs over the course of this race. Twice a race, or twice a lap, you're doing 400 or 500 watts minimum to stay connected. And if you're further back than the first maybe 5 or so riders, they're already going to be starting their 500 plus watt effort to get back up to speed while you're still braking or heading into the corner. And that accordion effect is one of the reasons that I spent the majority of my time further up, is that I didn't want to be subject to that and having to accelerate even more and close gaps. They'd already be sitting in the tuck while I'm still trying to sprint to reconnect to them. I didn't want to have to deal with that. So you can see me moving up too far back. Not happy with this. Don't disqualify me for that centerline violation, please. A couple times we got bumped out a little bit, but for the most part we were pretty respectful of the yellow line. Trying to recover here a little bit, which is hard on this climb, but I think that's the only reason I didn't move even further forward on this particular lap. So there's a slight descent here as we turn to the right before the 180. And the problem was that you had to slam your brakes pretty hard so you didn't come into this too hot and slide out. I had probably 2 out of the 20 laps my rear tire fishtailed a bit, and I'm pretty confident with my bike handling skills, but I did not want to go down and have to clean grit out of my new Team 6 kit today. So rather just stay near the front and choose my own line and not have to brake quite as hard. I haven't really made up the spots on this lap that I wanted to, so having not watched this right before the recording, my suspicion is that I'm going to probably move forward here on this descent. This is where a moto started coming through and yelling "move left" for God knows what reason at everybody. I kept yelling whatever I said. I was yelling what they said. I moved over to the left. This is the only lap where I ever went down on the left side, only because she was yelling at us to get left. I don't know if we were about to be neutralized or what. But after moving up to the front of the pack here and telling everybody move left and everybody completely ignoring me, I never saw that moto again. So apparently she got frustrated and stopped trying to push us across the road. So here I am at the front of the pack again. You saw I did almost no watts. So being effective with when you move forward, being efficient, not using power unless you have to, moving forward at the right point, it can be easy to make up those spots. So here you can see one of those Evoke riders putting a little dig here going into the climb. No, sir, you will not be getting away from us. We'll reel you back. One thing I forgot to apologize about was not wiping off the lens. However, that would have only lasted a few seconds with how much stuff was getting thrown in my glasses, face, nose, mouth, and shoe covers. Thank you, teammate that just said good job, Coop. Appreciate the support. A couple of teammates were out here in the rain still cheering me on. My wife and kids were here, which was nice. You want to do good for the kiddos when they come out to support. So here we have a stage 2 cyclery rider on the front, and right to my right side as well as another one. They both have riders up the road. I don't expect they're going to do any real work. You can see he's not really putting in much of an effort here, just kind of sitting and looking back, and as they should be. So well done. I roll to the front, but only because I don't have to put in a lot of power to do so. Basically just soft pedaling through here. As I said before, in this section it's a little bit of a tailwind, and as you make this left-hand turn, it becomes a straight tailwind, and so you can pick up a good amount of speed. And the draft becomes a little less important here, so I was willing to take the front here a little bit more often. And one thing I didn't preface before starting this recording was I'm no expert. This is an insight into what I was thinking during the race for you all to comment on, especially my coach and teammates, about my flawed reasoning or what I should have done differently. By all means, let me have it. I want to be a better racer. This is only my really 3rd year as a racer. I moved up quickly. My 4th year if you include cyclocross. Back in Michigan before I moved out to California, and still have a lot to learn. I moved up through the ranks quickly. I'm a Cat 2 now, but we all know it gets harder when you get to that level. My goal is to make it to the Cat 1, and I'm going to need 25 points from non-Masters events, so I'm going to have to learn if that's ever going to happen. So, putting myself out there a little bit. Breakaway of 4, rolling away there. Still at about 30 seconds from what it looks like. So frustrating that we couldn't bring them back. They were within sight. It was like a fish on a line. We should have been able to reel them in. Not happening. And we're, the distance meter on the screen is basically just from the time I started the recording. So not really relevant. We're more like 30 plus miles in at this point. And got about 12, 13 more minutes to go. Again, you can see the difference in my power here when I'm near the front versus how hard I had to go when I was further back. It's much better to be further forward and to choose your own line through those turnarounds. See, the rider that's on my wheel, something I've noticed while recording this, he's back there quite a bit. This is Max Hernandez, a guy to watch. Kind of hard for me to watch him if he's always right behind me, but he's a good racer. I'd like to think that since we've raced together a couple times now, he was watching me and that's why he was behind me. But maybe he just wanted to be up near the front. I'm not much of a draft, considering he's about a foot taller than me. This guy in the orange that just rolled off the front, he put in some digs at some weird points in this race. I mean, he's a strong rider. I feel like he would have been somebody, if we could have got a rotation going, he would have been effective, but he wasn't really working in an effective way with us. He's a solo rider. So, oh well. I know one of these the hit squad rider that's in front of me right now. I wasn't sure if he was soft pedaling there to try and block or not. Hit squad doesn't always, at least in my experience in the past, hit squad hasn't always played the most effective team tactics, but I am racing in the Masters now. We've got more experienced racers, and I think I need to always expect that they will be. So, rolling through the start-finish. The inevitable pass on the inside. Every lap. A few more laps to go now. Hard to see the lap cards in this weather. It was right around this time that the cramp in the right calf started to sneak its way back a few times, especially when I was pedaling at higher cadences. So I tried to pay attention to more of the pedaling with my left leg. I was reaching down and squeezing my calf a few times. I've seen a lot of racers that they'll shake their calves out by kind of jiggling back and forth. I tried to do that, but I think because I was cold and because I had leg warmers on, it just wouldn't really work. And so the only way I could really deal with it was either to reach down and massage the calf, or I stood on my pedals in the descending sections a couple of times and stretched out my Achilles. That seemed to make it feel better. But I could tell that it was gonna come back to haunt me in the sprint. So here we are, putting in an effort up this hill. Nobody ever wanted to take it easy through here. Trying to do my best to stay in the draft, not come around anybody here, because even though it is uphill, we're going 18 miles an hour, there is definitely still a draft effect here. Yeah, and for those of you who didn't hear me or didn't notice, that was my first inkling that Rigo, who was my probably number one mark for this race, he was in the breakaway from the gun, actually got dropped. So he's chasing the breakaway now, so he's now out in no man's land. And that the reason I said it out loud is I was hoping that a few people would be willing to say, okay, hey, let's swallow him up. If we put him back in the field, I think I could beat him in the sprint, especially after he's been out working all day. So, he was maybe 5 or 6 seconds off the back of the breakaway. And so, you can see me going a little bit faster here, hoping that we can get up this hill and maybe bring him back. This gentleman in the blue, strong rider, he came up near the end of the race a few more times than at the beginning and put in a couple efforts. I'm grateful for him. Again, you see hit squad race riders not doing much more work than they need to, with the exception of the one directly on my wheel. He was up front probably a little more than he should have been. And, that's probably not true because, if he's a 200, if he's a 45 plus and Pat Boss is racing in the 35 plus, then he's just sitting up front doing what he should do, maintaining his position. So that's an interesting dynamic. Do you block for your teammate? Do you try and break away and get two of your teammates in the same thing if you're not really in the same field? Masters is interesting. I'm still getting used to it. I've done 30 plus 3-4 in the past before I catted up, but this is the first year I've done these combined groups like we're doing here, and it definitely, it's fun to have more racers, but it definitely changes the dynamic. Okay. Not gonna chase that. No, thank you. Trying to save my legs for the sprint, sir. But I'd be happy to let Evo come around me. And, I'm waiting for a couple of riders to come and fill in that gap. One rider's not going to get away at this point. Stage 2 doing what they should be, chasing down. Not going to be the first wheel across, but, waiting and sitting on somebody else, covering as he should be. There's an interesting line through that corner. So the attacking rider looks a little gassed here. We're going to leave him in the dust. And, I doubt he'll watch this, but bravo, Max, you were on my wheel a lot. I don't know if that was intentional or not. Maybe just like the pretty pink jersey. But, wish it had been the other way around. You're a better drafter than I am. We're in the final couple laps here. If not the final lap. Everybody's looking a little antsy here. I didn't hear the bell, but maybe I missed it. You can see Sharon has moved up, and everything seems just a little bit more hectic, which suggests we're getting down to the wire here. Got an attack from stage 2. On the inside, in the wind. Fairly confident we're going to bring that back, so I'm just going to try and maintain my position here. I'm not super happy that I'm this far back, but when I see that Sharon is right in front of me, I'm like, okay, maybe it's not that bad. He's a smarter racer than I am. A lot more experience. And there's your cue that this is the final lap, the tightening of the shoes by Sharon Smith. So I guess I missed the bell here in the AirPods. So that was Rigo going back there. Still hasn't been we haven't reabsorbed him. Doesn't look like we're going to. unfortunate because he's in my field. But setting up for the field sprint. Turkey call every single time. Those of you from the Midwest like me, that noise always makes me think of a turkey call. And the goal here is going to be, as I said, I had a point where picked out where I wanted to go. I wanted to be on the wind protected side if at all possible. I didn't want to roll off too early. I was watching the major sprinters. The way the race had gone here, I didn't think that anybody was going to be able to stick a move from like a long bomb from here. But I was keeping my head on a swivel to see if somebody got too much of a leash, put in a little effort on the descent. I was going to try and shoot the gap and get over to the inside and bring it back. That's grunt of frustration that I had hit my brakes twice here when I should be, moving fluidly. And as I'm coming down here, moving forward a little bit faster than I anticipated, you can see there's two riders up the road. Somebody's yelling for the speed to get high here. I'm fairly happy, 5th, 6th wheel here. Maybe a little boxed in, but I think there was enough room to get around the hit squad rider right here in front of me on the right. So I'm trying to work my way over to the left, stay protected at all times. This rider does whatever he's doing, goes straight backwards through the pack, kind of dangerous. Staying on the hit squad rider, and as I see, we're going to catch these few guys here. He takes the line that I would have wanted to take, so I moved around him on the left-hand side. And, found myself in the front a little bit earlier. I was going to go from the sign here, so I started about 2 seconds earlier than that, and I just put my head down and go as hard as I can. And the second I started sprinting, massive cramp, so I only hit 1100 watts, usually about 1400 watt sprinter. I look over to the left, see that Max is going to nip me, frustrating, but ended up getting second in the field sprint. So from the finishers list, we had Rigo still was dropped, that's him there, but he ended up getting he ended up being on the podium. So I ended up Max Hernandez was in my field, he got 4th and I got 5th. And I'm happy with how I did in the sprint. And here's my family. Please feel free to comment or reach out to me and let me know what I could have done better. I'm happy with how it ended up, considering I was cramping pretty badly there, and I feel like the tactics weren't terrible. But I will respect a first lap breakaway in those kind of conditions in the future. All right. See ya.